Record. What's up, everybody? Two metalheads are back
Yes, I
and
mean,
better than ever.
hopefully.
So this has been a crazy fucking week in music.
Yeah.
A couple days ago, Mr. Jakey Lee, former Ozzy guitarist, who played on Bark at the Moon and Ultimate Sin, was shot in Las Vegas near his house. He was out walking his dog, and all of a sudden, some fucking scumbag leaned out the car and fucking emptied a full clip.
Full
And Jake
slugs,
got shot.
15 bullets.
Yeah, police picked up 15 bullet casings. So that's essentially a full clip. And he got shot in the forearm. He got shot in the foot. And then he got shot in the back through one of his ribs
In his
into a
lung.
lung.
Yeah. He released the statement not that long ago,
Yeah.
and the dog is fine. So,
Right. Yeah. Thankfully, the dog's fine too. Thankfully, looks like he's going to recover and be okay. But holy shit, you can't even walk your fucking dog no more without the threat of getting in shot.
I got to assume because the odds, like, it seems weird that that would be really random. I got to assume that they thought he was somebody else.
That's
But
what I'm thinking is mistaken identity.
yeah, I mean, but obviously, I have no idea.
Right.
That like, it seems like an odd person to just shoot.
Yeah.
you know, like, well, I guess any random shooting, emptying a clip on it's. Uh, I mean, most gangs go after rival gang members.
Right.
Not that it's unheard of for them to be, you know, going after random people, but
Oh, not at all.
yeah, but
Especially if you spend any kind of time on Twitter. I've seen things in the timeline where it's just literally some dude's driving, and we'll not talk about his racial profile for the sake of, well, um, fuck, I don't have the inappropriate bell in front of me. Um, but he's just driving and filming himself driving and opens the window and just fucking points the gun out the window and just firing off shots for no reason. For no reason. Just letting fucking shots off. I've seen chicks doing it too. It's just, just driving around and randomly just firing the gun out the window because it's cool to do that.
hmm.
So I don't know if this is a case of that, just somebody being a complete fucking scumbag, or maybe like you said, case of mistaken identity. Maybe somebody thought he was somebody else.
Yeah, maybe he had like a hood up, or I don't know what the
They
temp
could have.
there now, and they thought he was somebody else. Or I mean, I got to assume that he lives in a pretty decent area, but
I would like to assume that too, but I don't know, man. I don't know how much money he's got.
I mean, he does have an endorsement from Friedman. It can't be.
True.
It might not be a ton of money, but and I assume he's still getting some sort of residuals from Ozzy.
No, he's not.
No, he didn't write that
No,
stuff.
he didn't get credits for it.
Oh, that's fucked up.
That was part of the deal with those records. And there's lots of interviews. There's recent interviews that he just did 5, 6 days ago, actually with the dude Dave Friedman.
Oh yeah, because
Um,
they just released something new of his.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can watch YouTube videos of Jake talking with him and talking about that situation where it was like, he was kind of over a barrel. And it was like, all right, well, are you going to be Ozzy's guitar player or not? Because if not, and a lot of it was probably bluffing on the Osborne side of things.
I don't know. They could have just gotten somebody else to sign it. You're gonna get famous. If you leave, you're still gonna be famous.
Right. Like people are still buying Bark at the Moon,
And I'm sure
but
they
he's not
paid.
getting money for that.
Well, I'm sure they paid him well for while he was in the band. So
That I don't know about either. He might have just gotten a tour wage, like an employee thing.
I don't know. I remember Gus G when we met him said Ozzy made him wealthy, but this is
Right.
much later.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's true.
and I gotta assume for Zach to have stayed around this long, it can't be a horrible deal.
No, and I also think Zach is just very loyal too. Like, I think Zach just loves Ozzy and Sharon and looks up to them like parents.
No, I mean if you're an
You know?
employee and you're, I mean, let's face it, if you're getting paid enough where you can live and not do anything else except have to play, it's a pretty sweet deal.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Especially like I assume they're living in California where it's not cheap, you know.
Right.
So, I would assume I don't know about back then because Ozzy he wasn't new because of Black Sabbath, but he wasn't. I don't know how. I guess those Jakey Lee albums were pretty big.
Fucking huge. Multi platinum.
Yeah,
Definitely multi platinum.
I assume he got paid to tour, but yeah, like I don't know. I don't know how well. But it sucks that he's not getting anything for writing. Like usually you get like some sort of licensing or something.
Nah.
This
Pick
is
up
something to
any
write.
copy of Bark at the Moon and Ultimate Sin, and there are no Jakey Lee credits in those records.
Did he not write any of this stuff, or was he?
He claims he did. I tend to believe him.
I believe him too because most of the time, I I don't know of any band where they have a guitarist that wrote nothing. you know,
Right.
so
Especially guitarists that good.
it's usually the guitar player writes the majority of the stuff.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you have an Iron Maiden situation where the bass player does a lot of it,
Right.
but it's usually the guitar players.
And I know back then, especially back then, up until No More Tears, Bob Daisley, the bass player, did write a lot of stuff. He wrote a lot of Blizzard, Diary, Bark, Sin, No Rest, No More Tears. He wrote a lot of that stuff lyrically and musically. But I got to think stuff where there's lots of guitar pyrotechnics going on. That's the guitar player writing that shit.
Yeah, but I've been in situations where the song was already written, and there's like, do what you want over this as long as it doesn't make us have to change our parts. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
then did I actually write the song or did I just write parts to fit into a song that was already there?
right.
You know, I like to think that I've heard the scratch tracks of the songs that I did, and what I did was most of the time very different, and it made it a completely different song.
Sure.
Nobody else had to change anything they did.
Right.
So I think a lot of the songs the drummer ended up redoing anyway because I made them so intense. It made the drums. He was like, "Well, I could make this better now," but he didn't.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to. So I mean, it could be something like that. I don't know, but we're not going to get to the bottom of that anyway. yeah,
So you got one of those Friedman amps.
yeah. I use it to record a lot too now, but
Nice.
it's
That is awesome.
and
The little
funny
Jakey Lee logo right there.
yeah. The funny thing, when these came out, and I don't know if this is the case anymore. Now that that's a 20 watt, they released a 50 watt, which makes me wish I held out. But but when I went to get it, I went to the music store, I tried it out, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this. It was the only one they had. I didn't know. There was as I was buying it, somebody was on the phone trying to offer them more money for it. And the
Oh
guy,
wow.
like, I was right there, and the guy's like, I can't. Somebody's buying it. He's like, oh, and then he's like, no, literally, the guy has it in his hand. like he tried to go, no, no, don't tell it to him. He's like, no, he has it in his hand. and I
Oh
was like,
wow.
what's the big deal? Like, can you just buy another one? They're like, oh, you can't. This is it. There's no more left after this, and they can't.
Yeah.
That particular time they had just come out, and it's like you're not finding another one now. But
Huh.
there's been restock since then. I was one of the first people probably to have one.
So you've got essentially like a first
First run. Yeah.
Jakey Lee head.
I mean, I've had it for over a year.
Yeah.
I toured with it over a year ago because it also
That's
has
awesome.
it also has a cabinet simulator. So if I could
Right.
show up anywhere without a cabinet, and as long as there's a sound guy and a real sound system, could plug a microphone cable into it and run it through the PA.
Oh, running through the PA. Shit.
Yeah,
That's
it
pretty cool.
has a cabinet simulator. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I haven't done that, but I could.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, it makes it. I mean, it does make it easier, like when you're for people in New York, when you're playing the city, it
Yeah.
sucks. You don't have to bring.
Yeah. And you're
I
trying to
could show up,
travel light.
I could show up with a pedal board, my amp, and a guitar. I don't have to bring a guitar cabinet or rely on. A lot of these places are, oh, we have a back line, and you get there and it's some shit cabinet.
Of course.
It's destroyed, and sometimes it doesn't even work right. So I could just plug right into this.
One speaker
Kind of like
works
a
in it.
yeah, kind of like a quad cortex or something like that, where you could plug that into a PA. It's similar, but it's a real tube amp. So
And you were saying they just put like the day this happened with the shooting, they just put out a new one.
yeah, they put out it's a preamp pedal basically, and it has a cabinet simulator. So all you need is a power supply. You could go run them all around on your pedal board, and
Nice.
and it's basically that, which is I believe that there's two channels on my head, and I think that the pedal is based off of the same thing. And the first channel is a plexi, like a modded plexi sound. I don't know.
Okay.
Any guitar players. And it's good for clean, but you could crank it up and get like that old 70, early 80s kind of if you put an overdrive in front of it and everything. And then the second channel is a modded JCM 800, which is probably closer to what Jake actually used. And then
Yeah.
if you pull the gain knob out, it gives you extra gain. So
Oh, sweet.
it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's nice. And
That's
it
awesome.
kind of gives it a different voicing, a little bit more,
Yeah.
because it makes it more aggressive sounding.
Okay.
So it's
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a nice head. They came out with a run a couple of years ago of 100 watt ones. And, but they were only making, I don't remember how many, and it wasn't a lot, and that was it. Now if you try to find one, if you can, they're like 5 grand if you yeah.
Ooh.
So I was like, oh, I guess I'm never getting one of these. And then this came out, and I was like, yes, So
Nice.
yeah.
So between Bark at the Moon and The Ultimate Sin, which one are you picking?
Uh,
Let's read through the tracks. So Ultimate Sin's got Killer of Giants, Never Know Why. Fucking love that song. The Ultimate Sin, Never, Thank God for the Bomb. Secret Loser is a fucking badass song. That's got a great main riff in it. Shot in the Dark, we all know. Fool Like You also has a killer main riff in it. And Lightning Strikes. And then Bark has Rock and Roll Rebel. Bark at the Moon, of course. You're No Different. I always like that one a lot. Now You See It, Now You Don't. Center of Eternity. So Tired. Eh. Waiting for Darkness is a killer tune. And then Slow Down.
think Ultimate Sin.
Same.
Yeah. Although like Bark at because of Bark at the Moon, it makes it a little harder of a choice.
Because of the song Bark at the Moon.
Yeah.
Right. And that solo is so fucking legendary.
Yeah, well the Shot in the Dark one's good too, but yeah.
Yeah. I really like there's a live Ozzy EP called Just Say Ozzy. and it's from the first tour with Zach. And there's a version of Shot in the Dark on there that Zach does that's really fucking killer. He nails the solo and nails all those fucking like all that pinch stuff that's going on in there.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. But yeah, I will take Ultimate Sin. Bark's got one or two kind of meh songs, like So Tired is kind of fucking lame. And Now You See It, Now You Don't is eh.
Yeah, I mean, I used to hear The Killer of Giants a lot.
That's a great fucking song.
Yeah,
Great epic song. Big fucking giant chorus in that. I like that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, and oddly enough, Jake hates the sound on this album.
But the tone,
He hates the way that like he feels that the guitar kind of is way back and the keyboards are way up front,
hmm,
and just he doesn't dig the production on it. Same thing with Ozzy. Ozzy hates this album.
really.
And
But
he's said in recent years, like, I would love to remix it and remaster it, but that obviously hasn't happened.
And maybe because of the other people involved, he has to shell out some money.
I
Maybe
would think. And I would think any kind of new deal with it, Jake would want to have a fucking hand in it
he
if he
should.
can. I don't know if he can.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think when I hear it, my first thought, and I record, it wasn't. This sounds horrible. I didn't think
Same.
like, but I have been hired for things that I sent my guitar tracks off to, and afterwards, hearing it, I'm like, you know, but it's not my thing. You hired me to do it. You know,
Right.
like putting chorus on a guitar solo, and it's like that's some people like that sound. I don't, but it's not my music. So whatever you want to do, but there's that might be the situation for Jake too, where it's like I don't like the way they did this, but I don't really have a say in it. So
Yeah, that's, one of the more recent interviews I've watched him. That's what he's kind of said. Like, I hate the sound, but there ain't nothing I can fucking do about it, you know?
but also things are way different now. But if you remember, I don't know the earliest you recorded, we didn't you didn't get the product and then give them notes and tell them to change it. It didn't work like that. You recorded, they came up, they got something done. Here you go. Here's your thing.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
kind of happened with the first demo I ever made. But then when I made that album with Billy Graziati from Biohazard, and Left in Ruins, that was a thing where he wanted notes from us.
yeah, but
So
that
that
was
was the first time I ever experienced that. He would come up with a mix and he would say, "Come down to the studio. I'm going to give you the mix. And I want you to listen to it in your stereo, in your car, in the headphones, and take notes and tell me what you like and what you don't like."
but that was also not like I'm talking like this is way later on.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
talking 2006 and 7.
yeah. But
Yeah.
so the first I want to say 3 or 4 album things I did, it was went in there, recorded, and then eventually, here you guys go. There was no notes, there was nothing. And we
Yeah.
didn't know. We were too young to know, hey, we don't like this. Can you do something here? And
Right.
so,
Too young to know and probably too intimidated to say anything.
well, I mean,
And
like,
also, too, you're getting recording done and it's just like a big deal. It's like, let's just get this done.
yeah, no, like one of the guys worked for like Sony, and you figure, oh, these guys know what they're doing, and yeah, they do, but at the same time, they don't know your sound. They don't.
Right.
And then there was one that we did that I can't remix them because I don't have the original track. So I tried to remaster some of my old, some of Assault's old stuff, and one of them it's terrible, and I'm like, none of we didn't know any better. You
Yeah.
know, I was trying to put in all the EQ. You couldn't. The guitars were muddy. Like trying to put it like there's all this harmony work, and I'm like, I don't even know what the hell's going on behind. Like, can't even hear it. I'm trying to relearn the stuff.
Yeah.
Like I can't hear what the hell's going on. I'm like, I didn't realize how bad this was. You know, but
Yeah, but for back then, you got it done. It's just like, oh, we have a fucking CD.
and I would assume for guys like Ozzy, they probably went in recorded with somebody that was affiliated with the record company.
Right.
And the record company probably went, yeah, this is good enough, or no, you need to do something here. And then it got mastered, and then they got to listen to it, and they probably didn't give notes. Maybe by that point, Ozzy might have, but I guess if he's not happy with it, he probably didn't, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I forget who produced Ultimate.
I have no idea. Wasn't like,
Produced and engineered by Ron Nevison. That name sounds very familiar.
does, yeah.
People can fucking crucify me in the comments for not knowing exactly who that dude is. Think he might have worked with Great White. Kind of sounds familiar for Great White. And then Bark was produced. So produced by Osborne, Daisley, and Norman.
Uh,
Who Bob Daisley? That's the fucking bass player I was talking about before. Don't know who Norman is, but mixed by Tony Bon Jovi at the power station in New York.
hmm,
So I think Tony Bon Jovi is John's dad.
okay. Huh. Yeah, well, producing back then, I mean, I feel like producers are very. Oh boy, I just dropped my lamp.
I
You know,
love Lamb.
producers are very different now. Like back then, a lot of times, especially for bands that were multiple albums in and they came into a studio and spent tons of money just writing the album in the studio too. You had a producer,
Right.
you had producers in there going, "You're playing that riff way too long," or maybe try this and tweak. You don't get a whole lot of that anymore. And I remember hearing a story from Motley Crue where they sent a producer and he started trying to give them notes, and Nikki went, "Let me talk to you outside." They went outside, and Nikki closed the door and locked it, and called the label and said, "If you send another guy down here, we're not doing an album."
Yeah, sometimes, I guess like I've heard the argument that a dude who just presses record or whatever and mixes and masters isn't really a producer. He's more
Huh.
like an engineer,
Yes, that's what I would say.
right? And then a producer is a guy that not only records you, but also goes, hey, you guys should fucking shorten the chorus. Or, you know what would be cool right there is a fucking bridge. How about a bridge that has this key change in it, you
I
know?
feel like you have a lot of other types of music now that have producers in it,
Right.
like rap, uh, pop music is probably full of producers.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much rock and roll stuff anymore.
Right. Yeah,
I
it's true.
Most of those guys are, like we know what our fans like. We're gonna write whatever we want, and I think, and that's I should be like that, like.
Yeah.
But I know, I don't. Yeah, so I don't think. I mean, I remember one guy saying, "Oh, I remember when I was recording, one guy saying, oh, well, I need an extra this much money to be producing," and I went, "Produce what? Because these songs are already written. All we need you to do is record them.
Yeah.
Like you're not." And we had already recorded. a couple of them. Like, you're not giving us any notes or anything.
Right.
Like, we
Yeah, we
didn't
just need you to fucking press record and mix it.
you to record and mix. Like we didn't ask you to produce.
Yeah,
You're not doing that anyway.
right.
It wasn't like he was making suggestions and we were changing songs and then he decided, hey, I'm producing also. No. you know, you're just getting greedy now and like you're asking a bunch of 21-year-olds who aren't signed to a big label and are paying out of their own pockets for extra money to come record when you're getting at that time top dollar like $50 an hour.
Oh yeah,
I'm talking like
easily.
2001.
Right. Yeah,
Now
that's fucking big money.
most studios, there's so many smaller people recording that you can get a much cheaper price now. You know, but back then, $50 was pretty standard.
Yeah,
You know, it's weird that it's actually cheaper now, but that's probably because music is not where it used to be either.
true.
So
Yeah, you're not selling fucking pre-selling squillions of records like you were.
well, they also know like, hey, I'm recording this band and they're paying me this money, and odds are they're never getting it back.
Right.
Like they'll be lucky if they break even
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
album.
exactly. You're
From the
lucky
album,
if you fucking get back what you put into it.
yeah, from the album.
Right.
The bands, bigger bands will make their money,
Touring and
touring and
t-shirts,
yeah, merch and all this other stuff.
no doubt.
Even then, I mean, a cheap album, like good quality cheap is like 10 grand.
Oh yeah, that's what LIR paid for the album we did with Billy Graziati.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just the recording, that was from day one in the studio to 1,000 physical CDs in our hands. So that was
Oh, and
production and CD pressing.
yeah,
It was 10,000.
yeah.
And Billy was good. He fucking sat and listened to us play, and he gave us some suggestions with things like, yo, guys, that chorus is a little long. This riff is kind of weird. It's starting to sound like a wash when it's being recorded. Like, what if you did more fucking staccato picking in it or something? How about if you played it this way? He didn't do that a lot, but there was a few instances where he stepped in and said something, and he kind of needed to. And of course, we're going to listen to the dude that's got gold records on his fucking wall. He was in Biohazard.
Yeah, I mean, at least as long as it's not a ton of comments, you got to assume, well, he's really only saying it when he really thinks it's going to make a difference.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't trying to fleece us for time. And,
Yeah.
he was genuinely concerned about a couple things and was like, yo, I got to tell you guys something about your drummer real quick. You know,
Yeah. And that's good quality on the cheaper end. Like, I feel like most albums for signed touring bands nowadays, mixed and mastered, probably talking 30 grand.
yeah, I would say at least.
You know, yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think a dude like Andy Sneap gets fucking paid.
well, you're talking much bigger. You're talking like Judas Priest and stuff too.
Right.
It's a much. I'm not talking that big. That's probably more than 30 grand. If you're going with a guy with a name like that.
Definitely.
Yeah. And bands are not writing their music in the studio anymore either. It ain't happening.
Right.
Not going
Yeah.
in like I remember Metallica, like one of the behind the scenes thing, and them in a recording studio writing. And I think I remember that album costing like 80 grand,
Yeah.
in the 80s, you know,
Right.
which is crazy. you know. But anyway,
Yeah. I think a lot of the Black Album was written in the studio.
I think Justice might have been too.
Could be.
At that point, they're a couple albums in, you know,
Right.
so
Tour, record, tour, record, tour, record.
you don't have time to write, so you do it in the studio.
Right. and
Now,
then fucking writing an album like Justice in the studio with all that intricate fucking shit going on.
yeah, and now you're not. Well, it's you're not. Fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Ah,
uh, ah,
brain fart.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Talking
Well,
about
now
recording.
you're not getting albums as often as you used to, and
True.
this is partly why that, and because of how shitty everybody's got their hands in the musician's pocket, they often have to work other jobs when they're not playing, which means less time to write and record, and
That's right.
you know, so you're not getting as many albums as you might want from your favorite bands because, like, and most people don't know. You know how much like Madison Square Garden or Barclays or anything takes out of the merch from the bands that play there?
Oh yeah, every venue takes a percentage.
It's like 40% in some of these
Yeah,
places.
that's
And people want
ridiculous.
to complain how much the t-shirts cost. Why do you think they're so expensive? Their band's not paying that 40%. You are.
Yeah,
Because
that's why I don't bitch about
everybody's
the
got
price of shirts at shows because it's like
no.
I know it's not their fault.
But that's the thing. Most people, the average person doesn't realize how many people have their hands in the pockets of the musicians and they're not doing anything to earn that money.
Yeah.
Oh, well, oh, you're selling them here. Well, you have to have our people sell them. So we're going to take 40%. Why? We travel with a guy that sells our stuff.
No, you got to have a union guy.
Yeah, it's got to be,
Got to be a union guy.
so they're
So lame.
fucking you every way they can, you know. So
And they've been getting away with it because what the fuck are you gonna do?
yeah,
They got you over a barrel. Do you want to play? Do you want to sell shirts? Because that's where the bulk of your money's coming from is fucking selling them t-shirts.
yeah. A lot of people now will, if you're big enough, bid out on the venue. So the venue doesn't get anything. It's we'll pay you this much money and we can play here. And then,
Oh,
or no, or is it no, the places will bid on them and they don't take any well, it could work both ways. And then the like the artist will is like, this is how much you're paying, everything else can go to you. Ticket sales and all that. Like you get your money. And it's like these
okay.
places aren't selling beer and food and like they're raping you on that anyway. you know.
Oh yeah, $15 for a beer, dude.
So
$15 for a fucking beer. I just saw Richie Kotzen last week and fucking $12 a beer. You know, his merch was cheap, so they must not have been going in his pocket for his merch.
no, it's usually the bigger
twelve
places.
dollars for a fucking beer.
It's usually only the bigger places that pull that.
Yeah,
Like the big venues pull that.
right. Like
I've
fucking
never,
Gillette Stadium where I saw Metallica.
yeah, probably. I've never dealt with that. So, and I'm not playing. I think the biggest place I played was maybe 1,200 held.
Yeah.
They're probably talking way over that if you're going to start dealing with that stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, but still, it shouldn't be happening.
No, not at all.
Oh,
Fucking their merch.
yeah, earn your own money. You didn't pay to have those shirts made.
Yeah, it's their design that they paid for to get fucking made. Keep your fucking hands in your own pockets.
I could see if
Fucking
the
stuff
band showed
ass.
up there and requested you have people to sell stuff. Then you would go, all
Right.
right, fine, we'll call people, but you have to pay them.
Yeah,
I get that, but
of
just
course.
taking 40% and making it you have to use these people. Like a lot of bands are traveling with people to do this for them.
Right. And it's cheaper to fucking pay a merch guy than it is to fucking let the venue get 40% of your fucking merch sales.
Man, and the shirts would be cheaper.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went off, but
We went off on a tangent,
which is
but
fine.
what do you guys think about this whole fucked up situation with Jakey Lee?
Yeah,
Fucking gun
hopefully,
violence in this country is fucking incredibly disgusting.
hopefully they find out more details. So
Yeah. Yeah. I hope the fucking piece of shit gets caught.
yeah,
In the
absolutely.
meantime, listen to Jake's music and fucking celebrate his catalog. He's got other stuff after Ozzy, Badlands. I know these albums are near impossible to find. I own bootleg. These are bootleg copies of the Badlands stuff because it's all out of print.
Mm.
You should check this stuff out too. I think you would like the playing on this. It's a lot more blues based. It's not as aggressive as the two Ozzy albums, but it's still very good.
Mm.
And the Red Dragon Cartel too.
Hmm.
Good shit.
Awesome.
So hopefully Jake makes a speedy recovery.
Yes. Two metalheads
Two metalheads, give us some comments.
below us.
Hit subscribe and like and all that stuff and tell your friends to come watch and all that good shit.
Yeah, do the thing.
Do that thing.
Bye.